Hi, I'm Gregory Dell. I'm here with attorney Stephen Jessup, and today we want to talk about long-term disability insurance claims and specifically occupations dealing with CEOs, CFOs, and directors of companies. So, Stephen, when we're talking about our experience in handling these claims for these chief executive officers or chief financial officers, we were talking before the video about the tremendous demands and responsibilities in these jobs, but you mentioned to me that it's interesting because the job duties can vary, especially for the CEO position with a lot of jobs. How does that interact usually with the definition of disability that's found in these policies when someone calls you and says, "Hey Steve, I'm the CEO of a company and I don't think I can do my job anymore." What's the first thing you say to that person?
Well, I say, well, what type of company, really? I think that really is going to kind of dictate a lot of how that may go. And when you talk about how, that they look at the jobs as it relates to these policies, it's in reference to this idea in the employer-provided policies that these CEOs and CFOs may have through their company that will generally speak about the inability to do their own occupation, but how that occupation is performed in the national economy. So generally speaking, when you hear someone's a CEO, I mean, everyone knows that they're going to be pretty high up in a company, but then it's a matter of, well, what exactly do they do? So the insurance company is always going to try to strip it down to the most generic idea of what a CEO, a CFO, or chief, IT officer, any of that type of stuff, information officer. So it's a matter of understanding, in a lot of ways, what type of business you are in, the structure, the size, all these different things that really kind of will then uniquely shape how a claim will be presented and will be reviewed by the insurance company.
Now, a lot of people who are CEOs of companies, they're usually calling, they have a chronic medical condition, but for some unexpected diagnosis or an accident or something like that, they've probably been working through their condition for a period of time. And now they're like, they're highly intelligent, highly educated. They looked it up, they see the stories, and they're like, I think I'm going to have some problems, or there's things they could do to prepare themselves. So I want to talk about the things that someone in a CEO position can do in anticipation of seeking long-term or short-term disability benefits.
I think the biggest thing is making sure you're going to the doctor and getting the treatment. It's very easy in a job like that your schedule is so jam-packed, you have a lot of things going on, that you don't necessarily make a lot of time for yourself. And when you do, the last thing you may necessarily want to do is go see a doctor, especially in a chronic condition. Say if someone has bad back problems or stuff, they kind of get used to how that feels and they try to deal with it, so they're not really going to the doctor. So if there's a situation where you start to think this could become a problem, it's going to impact my ability to work, you really want to make sure that you're strategically getting to the doctor to document what those problems are that you're experiencing, and even anything that can help the doctor understand how it's impacting the ability to work. That's what I probably find the biggest issue is, and information that would be lacking that should be addressed if you even think this may be something that could come into the realm of possibility of having to file for disability.
And how closely are the medical records scrutinized when it comes time to file a claim?
Regardless of the type of policy, it's really everything. That's the foundation of a claim, is the medical information, because if you do not have medical information that supports your problems, would be able to draw a nexus as to how your condition is impacting the ability to work. If you don't have a good body of information, barring, say you get in a bad accident, it's this random event, where you can point to an issue and say, this is when it started and this is why, your medical records are going to be the lifeblood of any disability claim you'll file.
If the CEO, CFO has been working through the medical condition for 6 months, a year and a half, and they're not losing any income, and now they reach a point where they go, I can't do it anymore, does that create a problem for the claim?
Big problem, very, very big problem, because insurance companies hate when people stop cold turkey. They always look for the why. The argument from them is going to be, well, you've been able to work with these problems. What's changed? Especially, like you said, in a situation where there isn't a loss of income. You may be working with horrendous pain or some type of problems, and you're just gutting through it to get through the day and continue to work. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean you're disabled for purposes of this policy. It's a medical condition that's preventing you from performing the material and substantial duties of your job. And if you are doing those and there's no loss of income, you have the diagnosis, but you're not disabled under the policy. So if you just one day say, I'm done, that's it, the first question is going to be from the insurance company, well, what changed? Because you've been able to do it regardless of these problems. So you got to be very careful. And being a CEO, a CFO, obviously is so much in the strategic thinking and well-being of a company, where that company is going to go into the future, all those things. You have to approach the disability claim kind of in the same way. You got to be thinking multiple steps ahead to be able to protect and preserve information and realistically your chances of success.
Right, and a lot of CEOs can't just wake up one day and say, oh, tomorrow I'm filing for disability, let me call Dell and Schaefer and file, and then tell my employer I'm done. In the real world, it doesn't work like that. They're not going to, but for a catastrophic event, they're not going to be like, I'm just stopping. And there always is a plan, and there's usually a succession plan, because you're the chief executive officer. Someone has to take over the company. So we've worked with clients through that whole process, and inevitably what you described as a big problem is the inevitable situation that every CEO basically has, which is, you've been dealing with the issue for months or years, and you were trying to work through it, and you tried to put a succession plan, and you just reached the point where you couldn't do it anymore. But the disability carriers always throw it back in your face and say, why were you able to do it? Why didn't we see a reduction in your income? Why did you get a bonus? Why did the company keep doing well? It did. That's the way it is. But with the proper medical documentation, you can overcome this, and the disability company ends up having a very weak argument. So it's all in how
And Greg, I think, maybe a little too late if someone who's thinking about this is stumbling on this video, but I think this is also another really important reason why that if you are, in this level in a company, that you do consider, purchasing your own private insurance, because the rules are going to be different. A lot of people just rely, well, my company provides. Well, those company provided policies, which we're really talking about here, a lot of times, they end up not being worth the paper they're written on, because there's a lot of red tape and a lot of issues that, from a legal perspective, favors the insurance companies. So, it's always good to diversify the portfolio, if you will, but if you only have an employer-provided policy and you're having problems, it does take some long-term, planning. Getting ready for this video, I thought immediately of a gentleman I've spoken to multiple times over the past several years. Similar situation. He has Parkinson's. It's something where it's clear cut that there are problems there, but the employer, company's working with it. They don't want him to go because he's such kind of a face, if you will, and they're continuing to pay him the same amount. And he'll be the first to tell you, I can't do what I used to do. But if they're going to continue to pay me the same amount, I'm not going to take a pay cut on disability. So there are a lot of different weird, unique things that can kind of happen when people are at that level in a company, that takes a lot of advanced planning. This gentleman, when he maybe decides to make a decision what he may do, like I said, he's been contacting me off and on for several years now. And we've had clients that get us on very early, just almost in an advisory role, to kind of take a look at things and assess what that possibility and what it may look like if they are going to file for disability. So you could get an attorney involved really early in the game. Maybe you never actually file the claim, but it's always good to have everything kind of planned out as best as you can strategically.
Right, and you brought up a great point about the fact that a lot of these companies who have a CEO may find another position for the employee because they want that CEO to stay with the company or be an outside consultant. And it may be a complete change of duties, and depending upon the definition of disability, that CEO may be able to get that full pay and continue to collect full disability. Highly unlikely if it's an employer-provided policy. Often a lot of the CEOs that we represent have the employer-provided and have an individual disability policy as well, which two totally different animals. And of course, what we always do when a potential client contacts us is we offer the free initial consultation where we will review all of your disability policies discuss them with you, discuss a preliminary plan, let you know how we think we can help you, and and then move on from there. And like you said, you have clients or potential clients that have been calling you for years, touching base with you, asking questions to say, hey, when's the time right? But there's reality versus how long can a person hang on. And people don't want to go on disability because you are taking a pay cut. You go on disability when you can't do your job. And that's what it is. And our job is to maximize your benefits when you're ready to file a claim.
Yeah. And, not even the pay cut, that obviously, but also if you're a CEO or you're an executive level in that company, typically it's a type A personality, and it's really hard to be able to turn that off and say, I can't work, when so much of your personality we find is just go, 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 go. So it's hard. It's very, very hard. It's tough to pull the trigger in a lot of instances for people who are in this position.
Right. So I want to encourage the CEO, director, CFO who's watching this video. There's a ton of information on our website. If you're the research type, please take the time to go through our website. Search your specific disability company is really the best way, because we link all of our information to that, whether it's case reviews we've done of other lawsuits, resolved cases that we have, questions that we've answered about your company, and even reviews from other people's experiences with your company will help educate you about this process. And the more you're educated, the better position you're going to be in to get your benefits approved. And if you need us, we're here for you. Again, we always offer a free consultation, and we welcome the opportunity to speak with you.